It is time for another ice dive. The ice this time was very different from the ice in the last film, and I really wanted to share with you guys our expedition on the snow-covered ice. Hello, my dry and wet friend. This time I'm going to take you to an ice dive instructor course in Stockholm. Stockholm, being a coastal city, is much warmer, so it feels like a luxury to be able to ice dive here. On a snow-covered ice, it's possible to use the snow to create guiding patterns. With the assistance of a rope, we drew 2 circles around the point where we wanted to make our ice hole. Then it was shoveling time. We also added arrows pointing to the center. After all the shoveling, we drilled holes to the surrounding circles to let the air bubbles out. This way you can avoid the air bubbles getting out from the ice hole itself, making it weaker. Our approach was to take out only a single piece of ice. There was enough sawing for everyone to do anyway. The ice hole needs to be large enough to fit 3 divers in full gear at the same time. Speaking of gear, the best placement for it is naturally near the ice hole, however not on ice, because it can freeze stuck. Once the ice piece was detached, we got into our dry suit to safely deal with the loose piece. The plan was to push the ice piece under the ice. However, it turned out to be a bit of a challenge. One of the corners seemed to be stuck. We started sawing it out. We hopped onto the piece of ice, including the cameraman, but it just refused to sink. Suddenly, the corner gave, and the ice piece finally sunk. Now we just needed to slide it under the ice. Finally, we managed to wiggle it under. Next, we needed to find attachment points for the lines the divers would be attached to. Luckily, we had ice screws with us. As a difference to the other course, on this one, we had all the divers attached to a single line. This decreases a bit the freedom of the divers to swim around, but it also decreases the risk of the lines getting entangled. We tied the rope around the waist of each diver, aside from the instructor who hooked themselves later onto the line. After a surface briefing, the first divers were ready to go down into the freezing cold water. The task of the line tender is to communicate with the divers and control the line. Elise was our first line tender. It does look like fishing for a really big fish. Soon the wait was over and it was her time to get into the water. We were having an ice dive instructor course also at the same time, so yours truly is now an ice dive instructor. It was Peter's turn to be the line tender. That's, by the way, when you get the coldest during an ice dive, when you are on the surface waiting for the others to come back. While the divers were under the ice, I tried to spy on them from all possible directions. The light under the ice was quite magical. Looks like someone has been skating upside down with fins under the ice. Next, it was me, Malin and Anders. Both me and Malin wanted to become ice dive instructors. I waited while they were scheming which problems I would need to solve. But oh my god, the light was so magnificent. Oh yeah, this is what ice diving is all about. The instructor courses, the other candidates are having problems that students would normally have. And then you need to figure out what is the problem, you need to recognize it, and then you need to come up with the solution. So I stopped filming when the exercises began. And it was time for day 2! The dive site had remained pretty much the same overnight. There was just a thin layer of ice covering our entry point. Suddenly, Anders yelled for me to come over and look. All the air from the previous day's diving was erupting from the holes we had drilled. Johan gave us a briefing about the upcoming activities. And soon we were ready for the first dive. The last dive of the day was going to be very special. We had some mandatory selfie action. The second day was special because at this day we were going to have our ice rescue scenario. The scenario began with 2 of us jumping into the water and searching for the missing diver. Stefano was our missing diver. In the meantime, the service team was ready and trying to prevent us from getting entangled. After finding the diver, the searchers were pulled back home and everyone worked together to rescue the unconscious diver, who was, by the way, just pretending to be unconscious for the exercise. During the rescue, you need to alert the emergency services. You remove the diver's gear and start the emergency first response. Removing the gear is often quite a struggle. He lives! Stefano is alive! That was our most amazing ice dive course. Thank you all for participating and thank you for watching! See you on the next one!